Class is now in session. I'm Professor Hockey, and today we will be discussing the game between the Sharks and the Red Wings, in which the Sharks managed to win 4-3 in the shootout, and I could even say managed to steal the couple points here tonight, as it was not that great of a game played by the San Jose Sharks. Like it was in the previous game against the Ducks, where the Sharks didn't look that great. However, in that game, neither did the Ducks really, and so it was still rather competitive, just a pretty low level of play. Here tonight, however, the Sharks were just giving up so many opportunities to the Red Wings, 2-on-1 after 2-on-1 after 2-on-1, if not for some good saves from Jones and some decent defense on those 2-on-1s, although not decent defense that led to those 2-on-1s from the likes of Dillon and Vlasic. The Sharks definitely could have found themselves with a lot more than 3 goals given up in this game, so not necessarily one of those games that you're super happy about. But the Sharks do now have a season-high 6-game winning streak, a league-wide active winning streak of 6 games, as well as the fact that they have finally returned to the 500 mark on the year, 10-10-1 record. The last time they were 500 this season is when they were 0-0 going into the first game against the Golden Knights, so sort of like a clean slate at the moment for the San Jose Sharks, and they are on the trend upwards, I believe only a couple points out of a playoff spot. Now, this game started off with a Sharks first goal. That was Kevin Labanc, as well as Vlasic following up to make it 2-0, but then Athanasiou on a, breakaway, you could say, to make it 2-on-1, and then Hirose left all alone in front of the net when Brent Burns sort of just moves away from his position in front of the net for absolutely no reason, which leaves him all alone. That tied the game up 2, and Karlsson managed to make it 3-2 on the power play, but eventually late in the third period, the Sharks would actually get burned by one of those 2-on-1s that they gave up. It was Athanasiou again in the last couple of minutes, or 4 or so minutes, and we went to overtime. Now, in the overtime, the Sharks did get a couple good chances early, but after that, especially because the Red Wings ended up getting a power play, it was all Red Wings all the time. They got chance after chance, and if not for some great penalty killing from the Sharks, the likes of Erik Karlsson, I would have to point out in particular, as well as a player like Couture, and of course Martin Jones making a couple of huge saves, one in particular on Tyler Bertuzzi, the Sharks likely would have lost that game in overtime, but because they were able to bring it to the shootout and they got a goal from Kevin Labanc as well as 3 saves from Jones, they get the extra point in this one, and certainly now 2-0 on the shootouts this season. When you compare it to last year when they won 1-0 shootouts on the year, it's certainly an improvement, as of course the skills competition is a bit of a departure from what you would normally expect from a hockey game, but there are still a ton of points that are on the table in these shootouts, and leaving them there like the Sharks did last season a couple of times, they only played 3 shootouts in those 3 losses, is certainly not preferable to what they're doing this season with their 2 victories thus far against the Predators and now here tonight against the Wings. First thing to talk about would be Martin Jones. As I said, a very good game for Martin Jones, and while the stats may or may not actually reflect that, we can remember it as such. As I said, the Sharks gave up so many odd man rushes, and while there were a couple good defensive plays that prevented those, Jones still had to make a couple of saves. He made a brilliant save on Perlini, I believe in the second period, on a penalty kill for the Sharks. He made, as I said, a brilliant save on Tyler Bertuzzi, who of course was perfect in the shootout, now 10 for 10 in shootout attempts this season, I do believe, since the Predators one did go to 7 rounds. And so, Jones's performances in these 6 games that the Sharks have won, he's been playing all 6. They've been up and down. He's had some rough ones, like that Minnesota game, even in the victory. He's had some very good ones, like the Nashville Predators game. File this one under quite strong performance from Jones, and he seems to be on a roll right now. We'll see if he actually continues to get these games. On Tuesday, we'll see if he gets the start there. Next, I will talk about the line changes for the San Jose Sharks, as DeBoer felt the need to shuffle the deck here a bit in this, I believe, going into the third period, maybe even a bit earlier than that. It was something he also did against the Ducks, although not to this extent, as it ended up being Patrick Marleau moved to the first line with Couture and Labanc. Kane was moved down to the second line with Hertl and Goodrow, and then it was Meier with Thornton and Sorensen. So even though these lines have been pretty good for the Sharks in these past 6 games, we have seen in the past couple that the Sharks at even strength haven't been getting a very well distributed performances from all 4 of their lines. This game, it was mostly just Couture and Labanc carrying the show, as well as last game, it was mostly just the Hertl line carrying the show. So DeBoer trying to find a bit of a spark, but I suspect these lines should remain the same going into the following game. Next, I will talk about Vlasic and Karlsson, as this has been a pairing that since the beginning of last year, most Sharks fans have been really hoping that it would work out, because Vlasic and Karlsson just as like a hypothetical. It seems to be such a fantastic defensive pairing, but it has never really worked out like that. It hasn't even seemed like, first of all, Vlasic and Karlsson have never really worked together, but it also didn't really seem like they wanted to work together. That's obviously some conjecture here, but it just seemed that they really lacked chemistry and they didn't really want to develop that chemistry, but that has begun to change now. They've looked very, very good together in these past couple of games. Vlasic has made some fantastic defensive plays. Karlsson has made some, I wouldn't say fantastic defensive plays, but really the highest praise you can give to Karlsson in these past few games is that he hasn't been making disastrous defensive plays, which he was really known for in these first 12, 15 games of the regular season. And so this pairing has been very, very good. Karlsson has managed to, recover his plus minus pretty substantially. Same goes for Marc-Edouard Vlasic, and they have been very, very good as a pairing for the Sharks, and likely their best pairing in these past few games, because I come into my next point, which is Brent Burns, who had himself an awful game here tonight. The Sharks cursed with the fact that it seems Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson cannot both be good at the same time, as Burns was actually quite strong for the first few games of this season, the first dozen or 15 games of this season, but he hasn't looked that great in the past couple. He had mistakes on basically every single goal here tonight. The Hirose one, just an awful mistake. He got beat in overtime by Athanasiou and eventually forced him to take that penalty that put the Sharks on the penalty kill. He didn't play very, very well on the Athanasiou's second goal either, as he was caught way too far up on the ice and had to skate back for the 2-on-1, didn't make it back in time when Athanasiou scored, and so just a very, very bad game from Brent Burns. He looked quite lost on the ice at times. He wasn't even doing much offensively, and so hopefully he can bring his game back while Karlsson is still playing at this top level, because if both can actually be firing, and also Vlasic, so all three can be firing on all cylinders, the Sharks are going to be a very difficult team to beat, as they have shown in the past 6 games, even with just one or the other playing well. But that would do it for this review. The Sharks will be back in action on Tuesday. They will face off against the Edmonton Oilers again. The Sharks managed to beat the Oilers just a few days ago, 6-3. Ever since then, the Oilers had an insane game up against the Avalanche where McDavid got 6 points. Then they lost to the Dallas Stars. Meanwhile, the Sharks, as we know, have won the last 2, so the Sharks will be looking to extend to 7 games. I'm sure the Oilers will be looking for revenge, and so it is bound to be a good one there. Class dismissed.